Okay, after all of the work that went into this video, I put the pipe in my mouth, even though I said I usually let it sit a few days, and a light clench, and I chipped the end of the stem. Turned out I noticed that there was a little bit of a tooth mark there and a little bit of a hairline crack, so I wanted to see how it was. I pushed on it with my finger. It didn't seem to move. I just stuck it in my mouth out of habit and gave it a light clench, and it just cracked. It just snapped, and here is the piece that broke off of it. So, but stick around for the video, because I think it's a pretty good video on how I used CIF and a magic eraser to deoxidize the stem, and how I cleaned up a not so dirty bowl for a pipe now that I need to determine whether or not I want to have a new stem made or not. So stick around. Hey there, my friends, it's Brad, the Bearded Piper, and I hope you all are having a great day. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon here in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I decided to come out on the deck and enjoy a bowl of a Peter Stokeby Deluxe Navy Flake and a Brigham 1 Dot. This is my first time with this blend, and I really am liking it. Very, very good. But a couple months ago, a gentleman, and I believe his name was Sonny, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure Sonny was the one who made the comment. It was back in January, actually, made a comment on one of my older videos saying that he uses a product called CIF, comes in a bottle like this, and a magic eraser to remove oxidation from the stems of his pipes. And he said he wasn't sure if the product was available in the United States, and I immediately, while we were hanging out at the Pittsburgh RV show, looked it up on Amazon, saw that they had it, and I ordered it. Now, I got a 3-pack. It was like $21 or $22, and I'm not going to leave a link because I've gotten dinged for leaving links, even if it's not pipe related. I don't want to leave a link, so I'll leave a screenshot of the Amazon page where I found it. And it's one of those weird things where it's actually cheaper to buy 3 than it was to buy 1. So I bought 3. Now, the product is amazing. It is a household cleaner, but it does not have bleach in it. The ingredients are less than 5% anionic sulficants, non-ionic sulficants, phenoxyethanol, soap perfume, linalool, citronellol, and hexylcinnamol. You can tell I'm not a chemist because I can't pronounce any of those things, but it doesn't have bleach in it. Now, Sonny did say be careful when you are using it. If you put too much pressure, you can put a light discoloring on the top portion of the stem, which at that point would most likely need it to be sanded off with some micro mesh. Now, I tried this on one of the pipes, or a couple of the pipes that I got from my buddy John. Remember that bag of funky pipes that I got? And it worked really well. Some of the pipes were heavily oxidated, and it did a really good job on those. But that oxidation was so deep that I decided to go ahead and I actually went down to 1200 grit sandpaper and worked my way up through the micro mesh with that, because they were really heavily oxidated. This pipe here is not so much. Now, this pipe is a GBD. I picked it up on eBay a few months back, and it is a lot smaller than the pipes that I normally go for. And I picked this pipe specifically for that reason, because it's going to be for a quick enjoyment, you know, for a 20-minute, 30-minute car ride, when the weather's kind of icky and I have a few minutes to come sit on the deck or the porch on this side that has a roof over it, but I don't want to be out here for an hour and a half or something like that. And I don't have a whole lot of pipes this size, so I thought this one was going to be perfect. It needs a light reaming, not really a lot. There's a tiny little bit of burn marks on the rim. Again, not a whole lot. Something that, believe it or not, if you probably already know this, but if you don't, a little bit of saliva on a paper towel takes that right off a lot of times, and I don't think it's going to be much deeper than that. Now, I got it for a steal because, if you can see, that GBD logo fell off and somebody made a very poor attempt at gluing it back on. This is going to be a working pipe for me, so I don't really care about the aesthetics of it. Now, in order to do this, and I will show you some close-ups here of this stem. I don't know if the way the lighting is here, I don't think this is going to work, that you can see how oxidized the stem is. It's fairly oxidized, but I'll turn the camera around and show you here in a bit. Now, what I use is the CIF. I have a bowl of water because I'm outside. And I use a magic eraser. Now this is a clean all eraser pad. It's a generic magic eraser. So that's what I use. So let's show you the stem of this and let's get started. Okay, I brought out a black tablet so you can see the discoloration and the oxidation of this stem. It's actually fairly extensive. It's a lot worse than what I thought it was. Here it is compared to a Stanwell. This is a black acrylic stem. This is a fair amount of more oxidation on it than I thought. When in the sunlight, I can see it a lot better. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the stem from the pipe, and we're going to set this bowl aside. Now, I don't think that this bowl is dirty enough on the outside that I'm going to use Murphy's oil soap to clean it. I am going to give it a light reaming and clean that top off. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the video because I think most of you are here to see the magical CIF work. So let's move that aside. And I'm going to tell you this too, do this at your own risk. You know, I'm not saying that this is guaranteed that you're not going to have a problem. It is a household cleaner. It's not designed to be used on pipes, and but it does work well. Something that I choose to do. I'm going to show you how I do it. If you choose to do it, that's great, but I can't be responsible if you make any errors or mistakes. So that's my disclaimer. So legal disclaimer. This is the magic eraser, and what I typically do is I cut it in half. I cut one of these in half. Actually, I didn't do a very good job, so let's do this one. I cut this in half, and then I will take one of these and cut it in half to give myself some smaller pieces to work with. Now, I dunk the magic eraser in the water. Magic erasers don't work very well dry. So let's start and show you real quick on how the magic eraser works when it is just wet and just the magic eraser itself. I hope the table's not shaking. The patio table's not real solid. Now you can see right out of the gate, that's a lot of oxidation that came off, but there's still a fair amount on it, right? It did a good job of cleaning it up, but not as good of a job as we want. So let's get this wet again. Let's shake our CIF up. Get those sulficants mixed around in there, and then I put a fair amount on. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. Kind of rub it around the top. It does have a perfume to it, and I'll be honest, this stuff did an amazing job on my shower and my bathtub. And you know, and it may be similar to soft scrub that we have in the United States, but I don't know. I feel like this does a better job. So let's take it and go through. Now I'm putting enough pressure on it to squish the magic eraser, but not enough pressure that I can feel the stem on my top finger, if that makes any sense. I'm leaving some cushion in there. You can see it sudsing up, and you can see all of that oxidation. So now that was pretty quick. We didn't do a whole lot of time there. I took the stem into the bowl of water to rinse it off, and let me dry it off because you can see it better once it's dried off. And you can see right out of the gate how much the difference is between here and here. And I didn't do that for very long. That was a pretty quick process. And look at this side. This is the side I did not do. This is the side that I started. So very, very quick process. Now, obviously, it's not going to be so fast that it's a one rub down and that's it. So I'm actually, you get the gist of it. I don't think you need to see me rubbing this and scrubbing this the whole time through. But what I am going to do is I am going to turn on a stopwatch. One of the things I do is I will occasionally take the bowl of water and I will rinse off the magic eraser. There's still a fair amount of CIF in this magic eraser, and then I'll go back to it. Now, when you get to the button, you know, you can use the edge here and get down in the button. It's one of the things I like about the magic eraser so much. You look how quick that's taken that off. One of the things I like about the magic eraser so much is it does fit into the nooks and crannies. So let me work on this. I'm going to start a stopwatch, and whoa, the wind's blowing and I am losing my magic erasers, and one of my dogs is going to pick it up, which is not good. So I will pause this, start a, hey, bring that back. I'll be right back. Okay, one thing I should note is I actually hold the magic eraser and I work the stem back and forth. I find that to be a lot easier than holding the stem and working the magic eraser back and forth. Not that it really matters one way or the other, but you could do it either way. So, and I do a little bit of both, but for the most part, to get the heavy oxidation off the big areas, I hold the magic eraser and work the stem. Okay, I've spent approximately 17 minutes on this, and that includes rinsing and adding more CIF, and rinsing again and adding more CIF. This is the same small square of magic eraser that I started with. So let's take a look at it now up against the tablet, and you can see that it is, all that oxidation is gone. Just amazing how that works. It is now just absolutely, here it is compared to the Stanwell stem. Now you can tell that this is not as shiny as the Stanwell stem, and if you're looking to get a nice shiny finish on it, then I would recommend going to micro mesh pads. This is going to be a work pipe for me, so I'm not really concerned about the shiny stem, but I will do a little bit of a finishy to it to try to protect it here in a minute. So now again, this is not the shiniest stem. You would need to do some micro mesh to get it nice and shiny. I'm not going to go through that. You can see the difference between the shine of the Stanwell acrylic versus this vulcanite stem. Again, I'm not going to go through the micro mesh portion. To be quite honest with you, I find the micro mesh portion of it to be a little bit tedious. You know, you do it over and over and over again with 9 different pads to get a nice shine to it. I need to get a low speed buffing wheel. You know, you got to be careful with a buffing wheel. You don't want them to be too fast. I think 1740 or lower is where you want to be. I looked at a buffer at Harbor Freight, but it's at like 3450 or 3500 RPMs. So that's way faster than it needs to be. Now I use a product called Renaissance Wax. Again, you may or may not choose to use this. This is what I use. I just take my finger in it, I get a little bit on it, and I rub it in, and I actually push a fair amount. Now it's nice and sunny out here, so the heat's going to help melt it onto and into the tiny little crevices of the stem, but it's not going to, it is a wax, it's not a polish, so it's not going to give it that super shiny look that you would get if you used a buffing wheel or a micro mesh pads. The only thing that I use this for is to help protect it from oxidizing in the future. So, and I also, it is a petroleum based product, so I also let it sit for a day or two before I actually use the pipe, just to make sure that it's absorbed in, and then anything petroleum based is evaporated. It does have a little bit of a petroleum smell to it as well. Again, and I've never seen or heard, I've read on a lot of forums where folks use this. There's I think it's called a helicon wax. That's kind of like the next rendition, the next step up from Renaissance Wax. Renaissance Wax is used in museums on museum pieces to help protect them, and I think this helicon wax is is like the next step up from that, like the more modern technology, and I know that folks use that as well in place of the Renaissance wax. I just happened to buy the Renaissance wax. I put it in my Amazon cart, my wife bought it, and then I ended up thinking, oh, you know what, I should order this, and I ordered it. So now I have 2 containers like this, and you can see I just use a fingertip of it a couple times for a stem, and that's it. Like that's all I use. Now I will let this sit for a few minutes typically, but it's not going to matter out here because I don't think the sun's going to let it set up. And again, it all depends on where you read, the instructions that you read and things like that. I like to really try to work it in. The dogs are going to bark. Big truck is going up the road. And then I take, again, because I don't think the sun's going to allow it to set up, and then I take a microfiber towel like this and a whole lot of pressure. You know, the part of the reason why buffing wheels work so well is the friction and the polish or compound or whatever it is, the abrasion and the friction, but the friction is really what helps get things done. So I actually squeeze almost, well, pretty much really hard, almost to the point that it makes my hand hurt or cramp up from the pressure that I'm squeezing on this. Now I'm squeezing this way, not this way. I'm not bending the stem, I'm squeezing onto the stem. If you have like superhuman strong strength hands and you're going to crush your stem, then obviously don't squeeze as hard as you can. I'm not sure if anybody actually has that type of strength that they can crush a stem, but I'm sure somebody has at least going to claim that they can, or that they know somebody who can. All right, and then I will take one more pipe cleaner and I will make sure there's no wax in the button, and I will make sure there is no wax through, and that's it. That is the stem. So it is black again. The oxidation is gone, and I'm very, very happy with it. So saves a lot of steps and time, and if I wasn't doing this video, I probably would have 20-25 minutes in doing this. I would normally do it over or near the sink, so I don't have to put together a pail of water and stuff like that, but I decided to do it out here because it's beautiful out, so I brought the bucket or the pail of water out, or not the pail, but the bowl of water out with me. So that is that. Although certain ways that you see it in the sun, no, it's when I take my sunglasses off, it's pretty, let's see if I can get it to focus. It's pretty good. It's pretty clean. And again, it's not going to be that shiny. It's going to be, you know, a little bit dull, but something that I don't really care about. All right, now off to the bowl. So let me pause it here, and if that's all you're here for, then I appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. If not, give me a minute and I'll show you the bowl. All right, if you're sticking around for the next process with the bowl, I picked this bad boy up last year at the Columbus Pipe Show. This is a senior pipe reamer, and it works perfect for most bowls. You slide it down in there, and then you just give this a little twist. You can see this little cone goes up, and once it makes contact, every time you turn it, it separates these prongs, and it allows you to go little bit by little bit. The other thing is really nice about this is it has a reamer. It's like, it looks like a drill bit, but it's actually a reamer for inside the bowl. You're not going to be able to see in there with the light, to be able to ream out the draft hole. But the problem I have with this pipe is even at the smallest setting with the senior reamer, it doesn't fit inside this bowl because this bowl is fairly small. Now I have this reaming set that my buddy John hooked me up with when I first got back into pipes before the Chicago Pipe Show, and this is the smallest reamer of them, and it fits inside. It's not crazy snug, but it's not snug at all. It's actually fairly loose. So we're going to put this this in, and I'm going to put some down pressure on it, and then I'm going to spin the bowl around the reamer and not the reamer around the bowl. And again, this just needs a very, very, very light reaming. So that's it. That's pretty much down to wood. It didn't need much at all. So these reamers are nice. Actually, I have a tendency, as much as I like this senior reamer, I think you're less likely to dig into wood using one of these, unless you're taking the next size up and, you know, like that doesn't fit. If you're jamming that in and turning it to make this one fit, you're gonna have problems. But if you take one that's always just slightly smaller and you put downward pressure on it, I'm pushing with my finger down and then I'm turning the bowl around it. So they are scraping. I'm actually turning my both hands, but I'm keeping pressure on the one side the whole time. Okay, so now that that has been reamed, the next step is this lava right here. And I'm actually going to do something that I forgot about when I started the video, and I am going to take, and this is pretty old stuff here. This is Tom's Natural Whole Care Anti-Cavity and Tartar Control Plus Whitening Fluoride Toothpaste. It is Tom's Natural of Maine toothpaste. Again, it's natural toothpaste. I don't think you'd want to use something like a whitening toothpaste, although it may really not matter. But I just put a little bit of toothpaste on the tip of, or on a little bit of a damp paper towel. Get that rubbed in there. And then let's go over to this lava and get some pressure on there and see if we can't scrub that off. You're going to get a little bit inside the bowl. There's nothing you can do about it unless you stuff it with cotton. You can see that does like a fantastic job of cleaning that lava off. This is something that my buddy Homer taught me about to do years ago. And this Tom's Natural toothpaste was actually bought in 2007 or 2008. Was stored away with my pipes until I dug my pipes back out in 2021. So I'm sure it's well expired. You probably don't want to use it to be cleaning your teeth with, but it still does great for on these bowls and to get some of that burning lava off of there. I probably should have taken a picture of the whole pipe before and after, but I just stuffed some paper towel in there. I'm sure you saw me do that. Okay, let's get a little bit more toothpaste on there. Work that in. Sorry about the shaking, if the camera's shaking. This GoPro is supposed to have anti-shake or stabilization or something like that. So, all right, there we go. So that's what we're going to call that good for the lava. Now I'm going to take this toothpaste and I'm actually going to clean up the entire bowl. Let's use another piece of paper towel so we can see how dirty it really is. And again, this is now all natural stuff. So I don't think the abrasion is I don't think it's very abrasive. So I've done this multiple times with estate pipes. Never had an issue with it scratching or taking off the finish. But it does take off the hand grime and stuff like that may be on the outside edge. It's not as cleaning as Murphy's oil soap is, but it also because it's not as, you can see the dirt on there, it's also not as what's the best way of saying this? I've had issues with Murphy's oil soap. I feel like it's taken off some of the finish, between some of the finish and a little bit more water on there, some of the finish or some of the whatever the outside coating is, whether it's a wax or something like that. I just feel like it drastically lightens the color of the pipe, and I have a tendency to get a whole lot of dark water that comes off of it. You know, but you can see That's pretty dirty. It needed more than just wiped off with a towel. And I guess if I had a buffer, I could have just put it on the buffing wheel, or put it on a buffing wheel and with some sort of a compound and went from there. But I don't have a buffer, so we're doing it this way. Oh, there went my piece of paper towel, which means that, all right, so now I sometimes will dunk a bowl in water. There are a lot of folks that swear by doing hot water rinses, where they actually take the bowl, the pipe, and stick it underneath hot water and let it come out the other end. I did that with those funky pipes, and I had no issues whatsoever. We're going to take a paper towel here with this one, and we're going to get it fairly wet. I don't know why I keep saying we're, but I'm going to get it fairly wet, and then I'm going to rinse the bowl off pretty good. It's nice. It's a nice wet paper towel. I just didn't want to dunk the whole bowl and get water down inside the stem or the stummel. Pipe might smell minty for a day or two. All right, I'm gonna take a microfiber towel, clean it off. I'm doing this off camera because it's easier. Just like get nice and dry. And again, I'm putting a fair amount of pressure with my hands on the towel and the pipe. And voila, it's nice and clean. Looks a lot better, but it is dull. It is a little bit dull compared to what it was. It will shine up with some use, but we're not done with it, so keep going. Let me pull out this paper towel that was stuffed inside there to keep the toms out. Now I didn't bring them out. I usually use bristled pipe cleaners down inside here. I didn't bring them outside, and I'm not really worried because this pipe wasn't that dirty. But I'll go down inside the stummel with some of the 151 proof vodka, clean that all out. Usually do that a couple times. And then I'll use, I got it nice. I should have did this the first time. Got some extra absorbent, the extra fluffy ones down inside there. And then I will dry that out. And then take the pipe cleaner, I'll bend it in a U, put some of the vodka on it. And then put it down inside this bowl. Try to get as much of that cake that I just reamed out of it. Try to get as much of that out of there as you can. And then I will take another pipe cleaner and I'll dry that out, kind of dab as much of that out. You can use a paper towel for this as well. I have pipe cleaners handy, so that's what I'm using. Just taking the towel and drying the tip off, or top off. And then last but not least, back to the Renaissance wax. Get some on my fingers. I'm going to do something different with this one, and because it's so sunny out, I'm going to let it sit in the sun for a little bit. No, I'm not. I'm too impatient for that. Gotta get back to the job search. Get around the rim. Now the Renaissance wax will dry my skin out too because it's petroleum based. But once I get it on there, I really work it in. And again, this is a wax. It's designed to protect. It's not designed to polish by any means. But it does give somewhat of a polish because it does fill in any nooks and crannies, crevices, scratches, things like that. Okay, move that to the side. And back to the microfiber cloth. This needs washed. use it to wipe pipes down all the time. I only use the Renaissance wax when I do a deep cleaning. And when I'll be honest with you, when you're using the Renaissance wax on a rusticated or a sandblast pipe, it is tough to get it back out of the crevices in a rusticated or a sandblasted pipe. Like really rough to get it out. It's a buddy of mine, my buddy John, suggested once it was on using a excuse me, my phone's ringing. Telemarketer. But he suggested that you use a hair dryer on it when you're using, like on a rusticated pipe, when you get that wax down inside and you can't get it out with a towel, use a hair dryer on it to warm it up and then hit it with a towel. And that actually worked pretty well with that one Brigham that I had that doesn't have the filter in it. It worked out really well. This is gonna be a really long video, but there you go. You can see that the wax did shine it up some, maybe as much as it was before, and that's that. So the pipe is finished. And again, I wish I would have taken the before and after. I have one of the stem, but I don't have the whole pipe. So the pipe is finished. I think I'll let it sit for a day or so, again, because of that Renaissance wax, just to let anything penetrate inside and kind of evaporate off, because it is petroleum based. I know a lot of guys use it. It's supposed to be non-toxic. I did some research on it and I found mixed reports whether it's non-toxic or whether it's not non-toxic. So I don't know if it's non-toxic or non-toxic. I just know after a day or so, I've never had an issue. I can't smell the petroleum on it anymore, and that's that. So there you go, my friends. Remember, life is good, but it is better with a pipe.